time is right, we are here, and who is next?
You've done it, and you belong here, girl, and I'm really excited about that.
Just to sit in the locker room and look across and you have, you know, people who are pioneers in the women's game, I think is just the coolest thing.
There was a feeling for a long time that women could never be the draw. I couldn't be more passionate to change the game.
There's little things you can do every single day to help empower others.
Hey everyone, welcome to Top of Her Game. I'm Tara Slone, coming to you from just outside my home in Toronto on the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Mississaugas of the Credit Anishinaabe people. So what is Top of Her Game? Well, one answer is it's a show designed to introduce you to compelling and empowered women in sport. Some of them you'll know, some of them you'll meet for the first time, all of them game changers. The other answer is it's time. It is time to take up space because women in sports and women's sports are vastly underrepresented on the media landscape. And it's not like there aren't stories to be told. We just have to tell them because we know that if young people don't see what they can be, they just might not. And that is not okay with us. As the great Billie Jean King said, women are supposed to be thrilled with the crumbs, but I want women to have the cake, the icing, and the cherry on top too. Well, so do we, so let's have our cake and eat it too. To kick things off, two women who have taken their family business to new heights. Here are 10-time WWE and 2-time NXT Women's Champion Charlotte Flair and one of the most powerful women in cable, a tireless philanthropist and advocate for women in sport, Stephanie McMahon.
Going forward, starting at WrestleMania, you will no longer be referred to as divas. You will simply be superstars.
Here comes the queen.
Talk about raw power, athleticism, agility. Charlotte owns the ring.
Find something you're passionate about and live every second, every minute, every day.
For over 50 years, WWE has been putting smiles on people's faces. This is for you. You are welcome. You know what? It looks darn good on you. It really does. What I've got to do in my role as Chief Brand Officer is bring the WWE story to life. Since I'm running Raw, I'm gonna say it's actually not about me tonight. It's about the WWE Universe and what you guys want.
The proudest moment of my wrestling career was when my little girl won the championship.
There is no conversation, no debate, no doubt. It is simply fact that Charlotte Flair is the greatest of all time.
You know, there was a feeling for a long time that women could never be the main event, that they could never be the draw. And I couldn't be more passionate to change the game.
Well, I really can't think of a better way to kick this series off. I am thrilled to welcome to the show WWE superstar, the Queen, Charlotte Flair, and WWE royalty, a champion unto herself, and the Chief Brand Officer, Stephanie McMahon. Welcome, both of you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start in kind of a different way. I watched a panel with the two of you a couple of weeks ago, and I was so blown away by the way that you spoke about one another that I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot and ask you to talk about each other and what it is that you admire and love so much. So maybe, Stephanie, I'll start with you. What do you admire most about Charlotte?
Oh,
sure.
no.
Well,
It's too early to cry.
Yeah, well, don't worry, I won't tell any stories. So I've known Charlotte for a very, very, very long time, and since long before she ever got into WWE. And I think what I admire most about her is that she is truly herself. She is so strong, not just physically, but emotionally. She is, even though I know she's thinking right now, like, oh my God, I have no confidence. I can't believe she's saying this. But she does. You know, I think that Charlotte, when she comes into a room, you can't help but notice her. She just is who she is. And I couldn't be more proud of the woman that she's become since I've known her since she was, you know, a lot younger. You know, she's just so proud and true and an incredibly gifted athlete with this huge heart. And, you know, she loves unconditionally. And I have so much respect for her and who she is and everything she's been through. She is a remarkable human being, and I'm proud to know her.
So Charlotte, about Stephanie, I know the kind of person you think that she is and how much admiration you have for her. So just let yourself go.
So for one, I don't want to call the business now male dominated, but WWE is known to be male dominated. And having Stephanie, not that I necessarily said, hey, will you be my mentor, but seeing this woman who not only has a legacy to continue, her father is Vince McMahon, her husband, her brother, everyone surrounding her, blood related, is in the business, and she had to make a name for herself, whether it was being a chief brand officer or inside the ring as a talent. That's extremely hard to do. And stay true to yourself and be one of the top figures as a female with someone having a father like Vince or a husband like Hunter or a brother like Shane and a mother like Linda, and she's done it all on her own. And on top of all that, she is a mother. And you know that if you ever see her with her little girls, there's nothing more than she loves than her three little girls. So she's living proof that you can be a mother, a wife, and run a global company.
And both of your fathers, it seems, or from what I've seen, they both supported you. They both saw, in fact, Vince said he saw being a woman as an advantage, which is really counter to, you know, how most of us have grown up or how most of us have seen the world.
Yes, he, you know, it was funny, when I was about 16, he pulled me aside and we were taking a walk, and he said, so what do you think you want to study? What do you think you want to do? And I was like, Dad, I want to be in the business. And he looked at me so shocked, because I think he assumed my brother, but he didn't think about me. And I'm like, Dad, why do you think I've sat in all of your creative meetings? You know, he would always work from our house on the weekends, and I would just sit and listen. You know, I wouldn't ask any questions because that wasn't really my place, and I was pretty young. But I said, why do you think I'm constantly sitting out here and listening, and all of the dinner conversations and everything? And I'd interned in the company since I was, you know, 14. And when I was in high school, I was working reception, you know, after high school. So, you know, it's just what I always wanted to do. And I was so surprised that he didn't see that. And as soon as I said it, it was like an aha moment to him. And it was later in my career that he talked to me about being a woman as having an advantage, you know, especially in the rooms that I was in. Because for whatever reason, I've always been very comfortable around men. So even maybe just because I grew up in that world, but I was never intimidated by men just because they were men. You know, so even though I was the only woman in a room full of men, a lot of times, especially when we were at our television tapings, and a lot of that has changed, but I was never intimidated by it. And I think part of the reason is because I had his support, you know, not only as the boss and not only as my father, but just knowing that he believed in me, and, you know, that I had a voice in the room. And it really did give me that confidence.
Charlotte, for you, your dad has been unconditionally supportive, but this wasn't your dream. You went through a whole path as an athlete, as a trainer, before you came to wrestling. So maybe you just give us sort of the highlights along the way.
When Stephanie said her dad, you know, just assumed her brother, that was very much the same for me and my two brothers. My dad had me heavily in sports, and that's where I felt comfortable, and I didn't grow up really around the business. You know, I always went to my dad's events, and I loved bringing my friends and showing my dad off in his job because it was, you know, super cool. But I just didn't see myself in that light. And Stephanie saying that she felt always comfortable around men. The one thing that my dad did teach or instill in me is that there was nothing that I couldn't do athletically that a man couldn't. Like when my brother was little, or we were both little, my dad would always have me arm wrestle his friends and like show off my strength. Whether that was normal or not, I don't know. But when I did start wrestling, I felt like for the first time I found where I truly belonged in this world. It was like along the way that I found who I was and what I was meant to do, and an inner confidence. And when I started to realize like, hey, I can do what these guys can do. And I had a group of girls that I started with that we all just said, we want to change the game. My whole life changed. I found where I was supposed to be. I just wish it wasn't so late in life, but I guess that's my journey. I remember my first day at FCW, which is now NXT, our third brand. I got in the ring with the trainer, Norman Smiley, and I was like literally shaking. And he was like, Ashley, this is before I even had a name. He's like, you need to calm down. I was like, no, I'm just so nervous. I'm nervous about my peers, and I don't want them to think that I'm only here because I'm Ric Flair's daughter. Like, I'm athletic. Let me prove to them. Like, I used to be so nervous to the point of like exhaustion. It's just go after something you love and find something you're passionate about.
And now, as your dad says, you're not Ric Flair's daughter. He's Charlotte Flair's dad. So I mean,
dad.
Yeah, I mean, things have come a really long way. I want to know, because my sense is there wasn't a lot of resistance in the ranks to the evolution, to what's happened with women's wrestling. Am I right in assuming that there was just support along the way?
From everybody. Because, I mean, the men could see us putting in the work. And also when you're a man who has a little girl, who else would you want your little girls to look up to than the females that you work beside? I'm not saying it was just handed to us. It really took a culmination of even years before me. And then in 2015, when the hashtag Give Divas a Chance trended, and the fans fighting for us, and then the company going, okay, hey, we're going to give it a shot. And then just right place, right time. And I don't want to say it was just our group, but it's just years of fighting and fighting and fighting for more than just secondary storylines. We had our all women's pay-per-view. The men were in the audience watching us and supporting us. There's no resentment. If anything, for me, I want to go out there and go, I'm looking at the guy going, I'm going to have the best match. And I want them to feel more of a competitive, like, no, they're not going to have the best match. We're going to have the best match. It makes everyone work harder. That's how I want to be taken by the men.
Stephanie, talk about the Give Divas a Chance hashtag and like the momentum that provided and what it kind of, how it was the tipping point, I suppose.
Absolutely. So as Charlotte was saying, you know, when she and Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks and Bayley were all performing at NXT, it gave rise to women's wrestling in our business. And our audience started chanting, "This is wrestling," and women's wrestling. Only we hadn't seen that translate to the main roster yet. At that time, NXT was more developmental before it evolved into our third brand. And so we had a match that was all of 30 seconds, a women's tag match, 4 women, 4 entrances that lasted all of 30 seconds. And unfortunately, that was the norm. And our fans had had enough. So they started this hashtag, Give Divas a Chance, that trended worldwide for over 3 days, specifically calling for better character development, more athleticism, longer matches, better storylines. And we wanted to respond in the biggest way possible. So my father, the chairman and CEO, Vince McMahon, responded, "We hear you, keep watching, hashtag Give Divas a Chance." So then at WrestleMania, which is akin to our Super Bowl or World Cup, we had WWE Hall of Famer Lita go out and announce the rebranding of the Divas division to the women's division. She unveiled a new championship belt that was more akin to the men's, but still very feminine. and announced that our women would now be called superstars, same as the men.
Which honestly gives me chills. Like, Charlotte, you held this title when this was unfolding.
Right.
I mean, what did this mean to you as a woman, as a wrestler, as the daughter of Rick? Like, it just feels to me to be so meaningful.
Oh, I could go on about this. Well, but first I want to say it was an honor to hold the Divas Championship, because as a woman who grew up in sports, who wasn't a model or known for her looks, like, I was just known for my talent. And to know that I could be athletic and confident in this larger than life character, known for her athletic ability and not her looks, and call myself a diva, I was like, yeah, that's right, I'm the Divas champion. So to retire that title meant so much to me. But then to represent the company and win the WrestleMania 32 women's champion, at WrestleMania 32, the women's championship,
in front of our biggest audience ever, over 101,000 people.
No big deal.
Stole the show, by the way, again.
It did, and now that, like, and I look back and I'm like, oh, we could have done so much better. We could have done so many things different because we've had the experience. But it was just going like, here I am, one, a generational wrestler, two, not known for my looks, but for my athleticism, and from NXT. And as a talent, sometimes you feel when it's that moment that you can hold this title. It's the talent that makes the title, not the title that makes the talent. And in that moment, when I held up that title, it, like I said, like Stephanie said, in front of our largest audience with one of the best matches on the card, I go, no, this is a new era of women's wrestling. We're no, like, this will go down in history as we're no longer just eye candy. There's Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Sasha Banks, the future of this company. And that I could hold that title meant everything, but because of my athleticism, not because of my last name, not because I was a model somewhere or a diva search. No, it's because what I brought to the table as an athlete. And that was my message.
Stephanie, as the chief brand officer, what does having women elevated to this level literally do for the brand? How much bigger does it make WWE?
Well, it's everything. It's everything to me personally, as a woman and as a mother of 3 girls. I think from a business standpoint, the more equality that we have across the board, the better off we're going to be. We need to be reflective of our audience. Nearly 40% of our audience is female. And that's families. From a business standpoint, it's only helped grow our business from a content perspective across all of our different lines of business. But I think it's also the representation. And again, these women were not given this opportunity because they're women. They were given the opportunity because they earned the opportunity. That's the reason this movement happened. It's not because, they're female, so we should give them the spotlight. So when a movement happens because people earn it, then your audience is with it and your audience is behind it. Our audience helped make this happen.
Most of the work that I do up until this point has been in hockey, and there's a lot of momentum in the female hockey movement, but still a long way to go. What do you say to detractors who say this sort of blanket statement, there is no audience for women's sports? I'll ask that of both of you, right? I mean, eye rolls all around, of course.
Yes, definitely eye rolls all around. I'm just going to start, Ash, and then I'm going to
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I used your real name. I'm sorry. So, only in the States, only 4% of media, of representation of sports is female sports. So when you look at top 10 highlight reels, and you think about that, right? Think about the clips that you see in a top 10 highlight reel. How many of those highlights are women's sports? Not very many. And let me tell you, these women are delivering. There's incredible plays, incredible athleticism. If the audience was more aware, I think one of the biggest problems is the lack of promotion I don't think people know when the playoffs are. I don't think they know when games are, and just across the board in terms of leagues and sports in general. Women's sports does not get the spotlight. So therefore, sure, how can I tune into something if I don't know when it's on? How can I go see a game or a show when I don't know when it is? So I think that promotion is a huge needed piece. And I'm grateful to you to have us on the show to be talking about that very thing and help amplify the need for awareness. Because once you come, once you watch, once you pay your hard-earned money for a ticket and you come watch these games, these women deliver probably better than, at least on par, and most often probably better than the guys. Their passion, you know, what they have to do to prove themselves, you feel it. You feel a part of it when you're watching it, when you're there. Not that I'm passionate about this topic.
Oh, this is exactly what I wanted. Trust me, Charlotte. What do you have to say about this? I mean, this is exactly what you're saying about yourself.
I guess for the detractors, I would say, come right now with COVID-19. It's much different for us. But prior to this, I would say come to a WWE live event and sit in the audience and look at what from little kids to the grandparents are wearing. You see everyone in the female talent merchandise. One of the characters is the boss, Sasha Banks, whether you buy her glasses or whether it's buying their t-shirts, whether it's the man t-shirts or the Alexa Bliss gloves, you have the opportunity to support your favorite females. So it's just looking at what we've done with the talent and behind the scenes collectively for gender equality.
Well, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and I feel really good about having the two of you as voices to represent women in sport and just athletes and figures in sport. I think you speak your minds, and I love that. Stephanie, the philanthropic work you do, and Charlotte, the way you use your voice for positive change. I'm just going to leave this here because this is what we're going to ask all of our guests to leave with. Advice for a younger self. If you could distill that into something, what is the best advice you would offer to, we'll start with you, Stephanie, to a young Stephanie McMahon?
Well, and let me just also say thank you. That's about the greatest honor that you could give someone, saying that you would want your daughter to look up to them. And I don't take that lightly. Thank you. What I would say to my younger self, I would say, stay true to yourself. Be confident. Take the people who make you feel less than and take them out of your life because you don't need it. And I think that that's a really important message, especially for younger girls and women. Oftentimes we allow other people to make us feel like we are somehow less than, or we have to conform to something else. We don't. Be yourself. Be proud of who you are. Be original. Don't be afraid to learn. Learn something new every day and surround yourself with positivity.
I love that. Charlotte, what about you?
I would tell my younger self that you are your own superhero, that you have everything it takes to be whoever or whatever you want to be, that there's only one of you in this world, and that's what makes you special. Don't spend your time trying to be like everyone else. Use the tools that you have and grow and learn. And it is so important to find something that you're passionate about, because when you find something that you're truly passionate about, when you're scared, when you have the biggest fears, or, oh, I don't have time for this. No, you'll know, because you'll spend every second, every minute, every day, every week, every year achieving whatever dream that is.
My heart is so full right now. I cannot express enough gratitude for both of you giving us your time today. Thank you so much. It has been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. As we move forward with Top of Her Game, know that we are committed to telling the stories of all women. Also knowing that we have work to do to diversify our team, we will continue to seek advice from those who can help us move beyond our biases to find the best stories possible. To that end, we want to hear from you. Who are your role models? Who are your heroes? Who do you want to know more about? You can find us on the Sportsnet Twitter page using the hashtag Top of Her Game. On the show next week, a conversation with the woman who is tasked with taking the phrase "hockey is for everyone" from a dream to a reality. The NHL's Executive Vice President of Social Impact, Kim Davis. Until then, I'm Tara Slone. Stay safe and so long.